Hi everyone. Okay, so here's how this video is going to work. I am an adult. I started watching this movie as a child. So what I'm going to do with the first one, Home Alone, is talk about the perspective you have as a child versus an adult. And then for Home Alone 2, I'm going to talk about the what I consider specific nuances between the two movies. And we're going to leave it at that. Okay? So, forewarning, I might be a little bit long-winded on this one. Hopefully, right at 10 minutes or something like that for two movies. I think that's pretty good. And I'm going to try to be as non-biased as possible. So, before I start, I'm going to say this is one of my favorite movies, Home Alone. And Home Alone 2 has become a favorite also. But I'm going to try to be as non-biased as possible. So, all right. Now, as a kid, when you're watching Home Alone, all you know is that it's nice to have a movie that's kid centric because usually things aren't unless they come from the Disney family, you know? Okay. So, as an adult, you notice a bunch of stuff that you don't really pick up on as a kid unless you happen to be a hyper watcher and you just notice every detail. Okay, so as I watch the movie now, the whole premise is he's left alone, obviously. Okay, but there are two main components that have to occur for this to actually transpire or, you know. Okay, so there has to be 11 kids, five boys and six girls, and the two sets of parents, and the two drivers that take them to the airport. Apparently, and I guess this is a thing in major cities, I'm sure of. I'm just not aware. But you can have the airport shuttle come and pick you up. I wasn't aware of that. Okay, that's one thing I missed when I was a kid. Okay. Another thing that I did notice when I was a kid, but I didn't put too much stock into it, was like I said, there had to be five boys and six girls. Okay. Just so happened to have the neighbor's kid come over and start talking to one of the drivers and annoy him. And the guy says, "Go home, you're bugging me." But he doesn't leave automatically. Okay? Everybody just so happens at the same time, I guess Kevin's sister, or I'm not really sure the relation because there's a bunch of brothers, sisters, cousins, the whole thing. Okay? Heather. Heather is told by her mother to count everybody, do a head count. Okay? And apparently, if the boy that's neighbor would have not had his hat on, he would have been distinguishable. But with the hat on, he looks just like her brother. So he gets miscounted because, of course, they're not related. Okay. But then here's the other thing that I noticed too. Well, there's about three things at play here. Okay. Kevin gets in trouble, so he's sent to the third floor. So when everyone else is rushing around because they overslept, and also, oh, this is a major cluster. Because, all right, Kevin happens to get in trouble. He's sent to the third floor. Also, suspiciously, overnight is like a windstorm, and it's so powerful that it breaks the tree in half. You watch it, and it like collapses on the power line. So they lose power. So whatever time it was, I think it was 4:30 something in the morning, it's no longer 4:30 in the morning. So the time is not right. And then they oversleep. So then they have to rush to get everywhere. Okay, now if Kevin were where he was supposed to be and not in trouble, he might have been counted correctly. Okay. So then the kid who's the neighbor goes home and says, "Bring me back some French." But at that point, they don't know the mix-up yet until they get to the airport and somebody says, "Give this to Kevin." Then the kid says, "Kevin's not here." And then it gets reported back up the line, "Kevin's not here." And the mother and the father are like, "What? He's not here?" So then it's frantic, like, where is he? Where is he? And then, but still the mother, Kate, hasn't put together what happened. She just has an uneasy feeling like something's off. You know, mother's intuition or whatever. And they're in the plane, okay? So all the kids are back in coach, and the parents are first class. And so they're sitting there talking about, she's saying, "I think I forgot something, but I don't know what it is. Like, I can't remember what I forgot." And then she's sitting there in the seat, really comfortable seat, it looks like. And she bolts up and says, "Kevin!" Then from then on, they know they forgot their child at home. Okay. So then the whole other rest of the movie proceeds to try to find Kevin or make sure he's okay. So, like any good parent, they call the police, and the police, the woman, who I guess is a dispatcher, cares. But then the cop is sitting there at his desk eating a donut. And he's asking all the routine questions like, "Has your child been hurt?" Yada, yada, yada. And she's going, "I don't know. I just want somebody to check on him and make sure he's okay." And he's like, "Okay, fine." Finally, after like what seems like forever, he's like, "Okay, we'll send somebody to check on him." Okay? So these two cop dudes come to the door, bang on the door like a cop knock. You know what I'm talking about, right? And so he's scared because he doesn't know anybody's looking for him. So he's not prepared for the knock. So he, like any 8-year-old kid, hides under the bed, like under the covers. And then the cop on the radio says, there's no one here. Everything looks secure. Tell them to count their kids again." Yeah. So, okay, as an adult, I am perplexed and somewhat angry at the police. Seems like they don't care. I mean, they do their job, but it takes too long. If it had been an emergency, that would not be a good situation there. Okay. And then just so happens he gets over all of his fears, like doing laundry in the basement alone. And and then because his brother Buzz tells him the story about how the neighbor who salts everyone's sidewalks is like a bad guy. He's afraid of the neighbor for the longest time until they actually start talking and they build a friendship, you know? But it's just funny. And then, of course, the funniest part, And the most awesome, well, I mean, the most awkward yet funny scenes are when he actually protects his house. And I mean, I've seen it. I gotta say, like, let's see. It came out when I was 8. I've watched it at least 20 times, maybe 25. Okay, every time I watched it, I watch the scenes, but there's so much pain that I can't watch entirely. I literally, like, there are moments I turn my head. Okay, like when Daniel Stern puts his foot on the nail, can't watch that. Okay, and then also, when let's see, what's another one I can't watch? Oh, when Kevin uses the spider or whatever to you know, try to get away from them and puts it on somebody's face or whatever, and it turns out to be Daniel Stern again, and he freaks out. He freaks out, and then the spider jumps onto Joe Pesci, you know, and he literally whacks him with a crowbar to try to kill the spider. But he ends up whacking his friend, like literally hitting his friend with force. Okay, so, but everything turns out okay because happy ending. Okay, and then the last scene is when everybody is back home and Buzz goes up to his room and he yells, "Hey Kevin, what did you do to my room?" And then close. Okay, Home Alone 2. I'm going to talk about the nuances here. Okay. So they can't have it in the house because they just did that. So there has to be a little different, okay? So now the difference is the family is going to Florida. But Kevin wants to go to New York because he loves Christmas trees and he can't imagine decorating a palm tree instead of a fir or evergreen or whatever. Okay. So somehow, miraculously, he is on the wrong flight. And also, um, talk about the little things that you notice. Okay, he just so happens to have headphones on, so he doesn't hear when the flight attendant makes the announcement about where they're going. Okay. Okay. So then he gets off the plane. He's in New York. He literally asks the person in the airport, "What city, where are we?" And she says, "That's New York, sir." And he's like, "Oh my God, did it again." But he knows that if he continues talking, she'll say, "What's up?" So then he kind of keeps it quiet and just acts like he's supposed to be there. So that's a change. And I like it honestly because his family is not there. And you don't have the thing where the family's coming back. He has to make it on his own. He happens to befriend an older lady who is a bit eccentric because she has pet birds that she lets sit on her, which is awkward. I still think it's awkward, and I've watched this movie a couple times, not as much as the original, but still I'm like, yeah, that's a little, I don't know. But she turns out to be a nice woman. Um, and then they turn out to be lifelong friends because, and then there's a separate story from this too, which is why I like it too. Um, okay, it just so happens the same robbers, the wet bandits, because they always leave the water running. Okay, so they happen to be in New York, and they're gonna rob a toy. the toy store because apparently they think they're gonna have a lot of money, right? Okay. Which is another level of wow, you're actually gonna do that. Okay. So uh Kevin somehow gets wind of this. And also, before this, he becomes friends with the owner of the toy store, Mr. Duncan. And so he says, I have to save the toy store, you know? So he does the same thing he did in Home Alone and creates like a set of traps, kind of, and they get caught, obviously. And then as a thank you, apparently Mr. Duncan found out his suite number or something and gave him a lot of presents, a lot. Okay. And then, like I said, he shares the turtle dove with the older lady. And then he says, if we each have a turtle dove, we'll be friends for the rest of our lives. And then here's the closing, whatever. Okay. So Buzz is still in the suite. And one of the maitre d's, or whatever they're called, Bella, knocks on the door and says, knock, knock, knock. Open the door. Mr. McAllister's room service bill and happy holidays. Okay, so Buzz unfolds the whole thing, sees the total and says, hey, Dad! And you can literally hear Kevin's dad screaming, you spent $900 on room service? Yes. So, isn't it great? Great. Two of the movies I could watch over and over again and not get bored and laugh every time. So that's got to say something because I'm really picky and I can't usually watch movies over and over. So, okay. Bye, guys.